name is Dan Daly. I'm a citizen of Sioux Falls. I have a corporation, Contourcom LLC. My background is civil and mechanical engineering, real estate, and registered land surveyor. I have a few comments I'd like to state about the event center. I did my own review. I'm not a paid consultant, therefore my opinion is but my opinion. It doesn't have to be accepted. I'd like to start with slide number 1.
Mr. Daly, is Mr. Daly's microphone on?
Test.
There you go.
Can you hear it?
Is it on? Good. Very good. Mr. Daly, just stand a little closer. We want to make
All
sure
right.
everybody hears you.
We're showing a sort of a staircase bulge in the event center there, and it's apparently obvious. It seems more obvious at sunset. We can go to slide 2. It's south side, that's another part of the staircase bulge. And then slide number 3. That would be turned, there you go. Thank you. There is a staining there that's occurring, and it's a rust color. It's hard to see because the light isn't proper, but it's rather obvious. Next slide. There's wrinkles in the vertical panels. Seemed obvious. When you look down the sidewall, it's very obvious. Slide number 5. This is there's a water gap and panel insertion joint topside where water can enter the building. Needs to be addressed. Number 6, it's a bad caulking job. Seems to be prevalent at all the joints. Number 7, the panel insertion vertical gaps to let water and wind in. Slide number 8. There's 1.5 inch holes for water and ice to enter around window flashing. Next slide. The 12-inch by 1-inch window vertical flashing gaps. Room again for water to enter. Next slide. There's a 2-inch insertion, male edge end view. It's how the panels come together. They're 16-foot panels, 2 inches on either side. And that's all that attaches this. The next slide. The flashing over the windows is reversed, and it will let water in. It's supposed to curb water away from the windows. It'll let it into the walls. The next slide. That's the window flashing. And the next slide. The base, they used a spray foam subject to becoming mold. The way that it's done is not proper, but there could be another method. The next slide. The panel ends don't lay flat. It's supposedly 20-year siding for a 50-year structure, and just doesn't look installed right. The next slide. This is what the panels look like. They're 16 feet long. You can see how they're bent. So they'll come together, and there's 2 inches on either side. Some of the problem is temperature. They could come out, and they tend to come back in a straight pattern when they're curved right now. They've been made to be curved, and they could come out in a straight pattern. The next slide. This is the brochure of the manufacturer. This form of material is meant, this particular material is meant to be installed vertical and not curved. It's the wrong material for this function. There is a roll form that can be used. It's usually used according to the manufacturer at entrances, places where water is not such a problem. The next slide. The flashing that's there is meant for a vertical install, not a horizontal install. The way that it is now, water will come in through all those walls on the south side and the east side. It goes straight into some insulation, and no doubt the sheetrock will begin to discolor within a year. There will always be water behind there. There will always be mold. There will be times when you won't be able to use the facility unless you clean out the mold. It's a bad installation. It's a bad. It's intended for a vertical install. It was curved and it shouldn't have been. It was the cheapest way to go. I'd say it's a multi-million-dollar fix. I don't know how much. I would suggest to the council that final payment be postponed pending resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Daly, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Council, Mr. Daly went 6.5 minutes, but again, he seemed very, very well prepared, so I hope you don't mind that I let him speak a little longer than normal. Mr. Daly, thank you. Appreciate that. Would anybody else like to engage the council? Again, thank you, and Mr. Daly, again, thanks for your comments. We'll now move on to item number 16. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. Please, come forward, please.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough.
Okay.
I'm Kathy Brachtelsbauer.
Could you bring those down? Thank you.
Yeah, entirely different from the last speaker, but I appreciate what he brought to you. And I'm bringing another matter that's entirely different, but also I think of concern, and that's about a proposal to raise the bus fares for South Dakota, for Sioux Falls. And I really appreciate the work of the task force, and I was at the informational last week that you heard the presentation, and obviously they worked very hard and took the challenge that was given to them and were able to accomplish a lot of what they were challenged to do. Some things I think they were not challenged to do, and I think some of those things need to be considered before you raise the bus fare. For example, this wasn't a challenge to take on the environmental impact of our public transportation system, and I appreciate Councilor Erpenbach mentioning the fuel possibility last week, but I think also the matter of the loss of ridership that you get when you raise fares has to do with the environment, and much more needs to be done to get more people riding the bus for the sake of the environment. And then there's also the matter of the effect on low and middle income people in our city, and I think we have to take a closer look at that. And I think they started to, but I think more could be done on that. Raising fares is a serious matter, considering it impacts the livelihoods and the lives of people in our city. And as citizens, we have an obligation to help each other, I think. And prices going up, as were pointed out in the task force, but there's also a matter of incomes not always going up as much as prices have gone up, and having to pay more for your milk and your food and your gasoline just makes it even harder to afford transportation on the bus. If you wanted to ride the bus, you would have less income. So I really also want to mention that the task force has a comparison list on page 13 of a lot of other cities, and it shows the fares that they're charging, but I think it's not really fair to look just at the fares without knowing the different policies that are in place for those transportation systems. For example, if you need to take more than one bus to cross town, in Sioux Falls you have to pay again if you're going just for that day and for that ride. And I saw 2 women on the bus today who were doing just that, having to pay another $1 for the second bus. And but most of the cities on this list don't charge like that. Most of them would give you a transfer if you needed it. Also, the age at which you can ride for free is different in these different towns. Most of them is similar to ours, but for Pocatello, you have to be 9 before you pay a fare. In Fort Collins, you have to be 18 before you have to pay a fare. So there are other policies, and I think also one of my favorites is letting kids ride the bus free in the summer. And quite a number of the towns on this list actually let all the kids ride free all summer. And that's something, of course, that Sioux Falls could do. And I just want to mention that when people are left out by a fare increase in the drop in ridership, those are probably not wealthy people. It's going to affect the lower and middle income people in our city. And I think we could do a lot more to put some more effort into getting the same amount of money using the fares that we have now with stronger efforts. Like one of the things Councilor Rolfing mentioned last week was that he had noticed there are 15,000 workers in downtown. And I think picking up on that, I think it could be a lot of fun to try to promote more workers downtown to ride the bus. And I figured out that you could raise that same, say, upper end, $250,000 that the fare increases are hoping to raise by 2017 by having downtown employers give annual bus passes as a benefit, an employee benefit. And I figured out that you would only need 6 to 7% of those employees getting that benefit, and that in order to raise the $250,000 a year that the fare increase is supposed to raise, according to the task force report. So it seems like a real doable possibility, and that's assuming the city would give them a 10% discount, but it also assumes the current fares, not increased fares. So it's something to work on, and I really think we can work harder on this. There are many needs in our city. Lots of them are being addressed in many ways. As you know, there are lots of food giveaways and other things. But the 211 helpline has said for several years now, the #1 unmet need in Sioux Falls is transportation. And I think we need to put a lot of effort into making sure that our lower income people, folks with needs, have a chance to have the same access that they have now, at least, and not make it worse by raising fares. And I encourage you to put off the decision about raising fares and not do it next month, and to let us have more time to work on this particular matter. And I appreciate that.
Kathy, thank you very much for your time.